The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Geneva, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast without the breaks and commercials. Now, here's host, Dom Geneva.
Good morning and welcome to the next edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. Thank you for listening. I'm Dom Geneva here every Saturday from 10 to 11 on News Radio Wham 1180. And I have somebody that, well, you probably have heard of his band, but you may not have met him. And he has a very, very interesting story. And his name is Jerry Boone, and he is the founder of the Skycoasters. How you doing there, buddy?
Very good. Thanks so much for having me. And I also want to thank your listeners for listening.
Yeah, we have, believe it or not, we have between 8,000 and 10,000 people that are listening to us this morning. It's like taking the Eastman Theater and filling it like 4 times. It's really, awesome. It's really kind of cool. So a lot of people know about your, you call it band? Is that the proper word these days? Is still band?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you've been around for 54 years.
Next year will be 54 years. I started it 1968 at Brighton High School. So that adds up.
Well, tell me how you got here. I mean, tell me, probably wanted to be a musician since a very early age, right?
Yes, starting off, I was in 4th grade, and like everybody else in 4th grade, the teachers offer you an opportunity to pick an instrument. So my family was pretty musical. My uncle played all 4 saxophones and clarinet. And so they pushed me into clarinet, which was where I started. And I enjoyed that for the first 3 or 4 years. Wasn't really a cool instrument, if you will, but it was something you could play in the stage band. So I learned how to play that well and enjoyed it a lot. But moving on from that, I'd say about 8th grade, there was tryouts in the school band for first chair and so forth. So the bottom line, there was always this girl who was better than me. She was the top clarinet player, and I was like number 2. And I would challenge her and never really win. And it was not going anywhere. My mom always said, when you hit a brick wall, don't just keep hitting the brick wall, go around. So at a young age, I decided I'm going to go and I'm going to take saxophone, which is really the same fingerings as the clarinet upper register. So grabbed a tenor sax, and I was a small guy, so that's a big horn for a little guy. And I really got into it, and I would practice at home with bands that were coming out, soul music in the 60s, okay? My brother got in a band, played drums, a very cool band, rock and roll band. And so my start really came because of my brother. He had played with a band that actually did songs by the Rascals, a lot of that kind of stuff. And my brother was very rhythmic, and he loved some of the soul music that was coming out. I was home playing along with Junior Walker and the All-Stars, a song called Shotgun, which is a sax song and so forth, hoping someday to get in a band, but very timid kind of guy. And so finally my brother got me and this African-American buddy of ours named Ronnie Baxter in this band called the Abstractions. About that time, they were going to be breaking up because those older guys in the band were going to college. So when that happened, that band was breaking up. Ronnie and I were still young. And there was another band that I knew in my high school at Brighton that was breaking up for the identical same reasons. So we decided, let's put something together for our senior year. And I said, you guys, we can practice at my house. We've always been practicing bands at my house, so we'll go over there. I named the band right away, and I'm sort of pleased that as a 17-year-old, I could come up with the name, which is an interesting name, if I may tell you the story behind it.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
The story is pretty easy, but my great uncle, George Long, owned and operated Seabreeze. And so we would go on the Jackrabbit, and it's a great roller coaster, as you know, classic. And so I was thinking about, what should I name this band? It's got to be something fun, because it's going to be a fun ride here, I can tell. And so I thought of a roller coaster, and I happened to be in front of the high school looking up into the blue sky, and I thought, roller coaster in the sky Skycoasters.
Uh-huh.
It means nothing, just like Kodak meant nothing. Xerox meant nothing, really. It was just words. And I thought, this is a great name. So I branded it right then. And I remember a friend of ours actually put the type together for it. And the one thing I think that I'm proud of that I did, which was way ahead of my time, is I said, we're not going to change this name. We're going to stick with this name just like Kodak stuck with Kodak and everything. And hang on to this band's name no matter what. If people don't understand it or whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's 54 years ago. We're still using the same name. I'm very proud of that.
Certainly great marketing. I mean, Skycoasters, it has this feel-good way about the word.
We love it. I think it really plays well, and there's no reason to change something when it's been working for you. And we're known not just in the Rochester and the New York area, but down in Florida. I mean, we've been all over. We have played at least, I'd say, 25 to 30 of the states in the United States. It's amazing that we for weddings, and I'll explain that later, but one gig leads to another when you go into this national realm versus the local realm.
Sure, and the longevity it has. I like to say not all of my questions are all that serious, okay? So you have to expect this. You said that the clarinet wasn't a very cool instrument. Okay, so what is a cool instrument and what makes it a cool instrument?
Well, at the time, Junior Walker wasn't playing the clarinet on... Okay. So you're listening to what's happening in the songs, and there was no spots for clarinet and rock and roll or soul music and everything that was playing in the 60s, which is where I was hanging. And so saxophone, guitar, drums, singing, all those were the way to go.
In the day with Glenn Miller, a clarinet was a cool instrument.
Absolutely. That was the top instrument above all the saxophones that you could hear it. So that was very cool. But when we were going through this, it wasn't considered a cool instrument, and you didn't hear it in the music. So,
do you have a favorite musician from the past? Anybody?
I'd say, well, I really liked soul music back then. So James Brown was just the tops, and Junior Walker, because anything with horns I loved. And then moving on from there into the late 60s, early 70s, Earth, Wind and Fire, the whole sound that comes. I loved horn bands. In Chicago, which really sprung in when I was in my college years, we got to open up for them, which was very exciting. So I'll just bounce to that, from high school to college, if I may.
Go right ahead.
All right. So we're having this great time our senior year in high school, and we're playing our lead singer was African American, so he would get us these great gigs down at the Baton Street Settlement House, those kind of places in the city. So we're playing soul music in the city. We're playing for Brighton High School and so forth, just opposite ends, if you will. And then we all went to college. And so we said, we're having such a good time. This was supposed to just be for our senior year, but let's keep it going. So what we did, which I think was brilliant, we would book ourselves for a big spring, winter weekend or whatever you had at your college. And so we would fly to each other's schools, which were in the Northeast, from Massachusetts. I was down in Pennsylvania. There was Utica. And speaking of Utica, that's where, at this time, Chicago, which had just changed their name from Chicago Transit Authority to Chicago because of a lawsuit. They're early on. They're only a couple of years older than us, right?
Yeah.
They're going to play at Utica, and we had this great gig where we got to open up for them. Wonderful. Got to meet them, got to talk to them before they went on. It was just a tremendous experience.
And we're going to get more into this right after this break.
The kind of girl who won't stand still too long, love 'em and leave 'em.
So we're back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, here with Jerry Boone, who's the founder of the Skycoasters. Probably the best named band I can think of.
Well, we really enjoy it, and we've stuck with the name, as I mentioned, and not only here in the Rochester area, but all over the country. In fact, we played internationally as well. So it's known. I think we get bigger crowds sometimes in places that are not near Rochester when we play in Florida and these other states that we played in.
How would you define the sound of Skycoasters?
It's based off the horns is what we really liked about it. When I was putting it together, we just kept on adding horns. I definitely wanted a trombone so we could be doing Chicago kind of stuff as well. Trumpet, tenor sax. Mike Allen plays alto sax. So we've got up to 4 horns that can cover anything. And the idea is if you've got horns and you've got a great rhythm section, which we have, then you can do just about any kind of contemporary music, old music. When we do a wedding, we can do In the Mood, Glenn Miller's song to start it off. And then we can move right into Earth, Wind, and Fire, and we can move into Levitating by Dua Lipa, which is brand new on the radio now. So we can do any of that stuff because we have a 9-piece band that's quite, I think, quite a good band with good people.
Well, the thing, after 54 years, I imagine you're not doing this as a primary source of income. You're doing this because you love to do it, right?
Exactly. No, we've been fortunate. We've all had professional jobs, or have professional jobs, I should say, from teachers. I worked at Xerox and Kodak. Others, we have a guy, our trombone player has his own construction company. So we have a wide variety of professions. And we've been doing this because we love it, which takes time, obviously, but we love it. So we'll play up to 50, 60 times a year with the band, and we practice and everything else. It's a commitment, but there's nothing like playing in front of an audience that you really connect with, that you understand. Everybody in the band knows we're not in it to make a lot of money. We're in it to have fun. And our job is to entertain those people so that they walk away and say, this was the best party I could have had. Or this was, well, I once had, this meant a lot to me. I got a card from a bride that said, and it was just great, the band. It was all about the band. She goes, you guys made my wedding everything I dreamed it would be. Now tell me, that doesn't melt your heart now? I put that right in the scrapbook, right?
So tell me, you say you connect with an audience. How do you know when you connect with an audience?
You can tell within maybe the first couple songs, because we have this good fan base, they'll be up dancing right away. And that's the best way to know that you got them right away. But we talk to them between songs, and the magic is each guy in the band has their talents. And we have our bass player, lead singer, Kevin. He's very good at putting songs back to back that will just go faster, faster, faster. Then you hit a slow song in there, then you build it up again. But songs that we pick as a democratic voting group that we're going to learn are songs that people want to dance to. I don't care if it's country. I don't care if it's 60s, Beach Boys, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Michael Jackson, 80s, 90s, whatever it is, it's got to not be a tweener. Now, a tweener is a lot of the songs in the radio, you say, oh, that's great, but you don't dance to it. It's just a medium beat, right? These ones are like 120, they're driving, they're fun. They're songs that people grew up with and love and have memories about, and that's what we put together. And Kevin's great at putting the order. There's an art to it. Now, I always tell the brides, these bride books, they say, do this, do that. Tell the band what you want to play or whatever. I say, listen, you hired us to fill the dance floor. Trust us. We know how to do what we do. And they always do. They just let us roll, And then we put it together and we fill the dance floor up, and they're loving it too.
I never thought about that before.
Yeah.
But yeah, there has to be some people hire an artist and then they tell them how to paint the painting. You got to hire somebody who knows what they're doing and let them do what they do.
You're exactly right. I want to tell you one quick thing.
Sure, go ahead.
About the band. Now, Mike Allen plays alto sax, and he comes up with, I'm more the guy who, if you give me a good idea, I'll go through and do it, right? Mm-hmm. So he's an idea kind of guy. And so we're playing Beach Boys, 2 songs in a row, right? Surfing USA, Daddy Took My T-Bird Away. Okay. Right? So think of those 2 songs. And he comes up, he goes, we ought to do. I said, what's that? he said, we ought to make a surfboard, meaning just a board that's flat, and we'll paint Surfs Up on it. And we'll have our crew, because, we have a crew that sets up. We don't want to have to do that anymore. So we'll have the crew take the board out there. We'll jump out there like we do, and we'll get the bride up on the board and lift her up about knee high, which these guys are holding the board. And so now she's the hero dancing to the Beach Boys. And Micro and I are holding her hand so she doesn't fall off the other end. She comes down, then you get the groom, then you get grandma up there, then you get some little kid up there, and the whole place goes crazy. So we've been doing that ever since he thought up that idea. We made the surfboard. We're going down to Florida for a big gig that we have every year down in Key Largo. We actually are bringing the surfboards down there. We just left one down there because the people go nuts. Nobody does this. No other band in town would dare do it. They know it's a Skycoaster thing to do. But every wedding I do, I say, would you like us to do that? And the bride goes, hell yeah.
Okay. What I'm hearing from you is that you're entertaining. It's not just playing the music, but it's entertaining people and getting them engaged.
Exactly. You're right on, Tom. You go out and you see some of these bands and you see the guitar player doing a 10-minute solo and grimacing like they're going to the bathroom. and I just think that's nice for them, but what about the audience?
Tell me about Yankee Stadium.
Oh, Yankee Stadium, another Mike Allen idea. When we play down in Florida, we play at this very wealthy, wonderful, and I won't name it, but a resort community in Key Largo. And the Steinbrenners, who they had a yacht, and they were in this place when we were playing. So we get a call. I get a call after this gig, and it's from George Steinbrenner's daughter's husband, and he says, "We would like you. We love you guys. My wife loves you. We're having a surprise birthday party for her in Tampa, which is where the Yankee summer, you know about that, Yankee summer camp. We'd like you to come down and play." And so I'm going, oh my God, okay, we'll get down there and play for you guys. Flew us down, total surprise, standing right along with George Steinbrenner. In fact, George is, if I have a moment, I'll tell the story real quick.
Well, we got 2 minutes in the next segment.
Okay, so very quickly, we're at the airport. We get picked up by George's man, and I forget his name, but he was, the man that George uses. And he said, look, I know you guys are playing for my daughter, but I want you to do some big band stuff for George first before you do all your rock and roll stuff. And I was, okay. So we did. And then later on, I'm standing there, we're doing Hot, Hot, Hot. I'm in all this weird costumes. I'm standing right next to George. He loved the band. And from there, we got the opportunity to play at Yankee Stadium on the opening day in 2009. No other band had ever really played outside the stadium like that, bringing people in. They're all coming in 3 hours before to check this new stadium out. And here's the Skycoasters playing there. And Jenny gave us all Yankees outfits, and they let us go and gave us tickets. I mean, it was a great day.
I mean, that's cooler than cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you have more stories like that. And we're into the news break at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to see you right on the other side. Okay, welcome back, and thanks for listening. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, every Saturday from 10 to 11, right here on News Radio Wham 1180. And you can get all of our previous shows on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com if you care to. I'm here with Jerry Boone, who is the founder of the Skycoasters. And before we get going any further, everybody who listens to the show knows I like to shout out to the great Bob Johnson Auto Group, who sponsors the show, allows me to do what I do, and are great people to deal with. So I'd like to thank them and recommend that you see them when you have automotive needs. Now, one other thing I need to tell everybody is that the music that goes into a break and out of a break is called bumper music. And all the music you've heard today so far, and you're going to hear a little bit more music later on, is from the Skycoasters, which is really kind of a cool thing. And before the break, we were talking about Yankee Stadium and playing for the opening of the new Yankee Stadium. And that compels me to ask you the question about other places you've been. And that probably compels another bunch of stories about, stories they have. So I'm going to let you loose, and you got about 7.5 minutes there, my friend.
Terrific. No, that's great. I think I'll just concentrate. We were talking about we play here locally, and I will say before I jump out of Rochester, one of the really cool things we did in the 80s was we approached the RPO, which was, by the way, hurting a little bit as far as, they just didn't have the funds. And so we said, how about doing a Pop Rocks concert, meaning, and they called it Pop Rocks, I thought was great, meaning the Skycoasters will play with the orchestra, and we will have full orchestrations for songs like Mony Mony and other, rock and roll songs that we were playing at the time. And if you do that, we'll, cut you a real break on our price and give you the money for the orchestra. We ended up doing that concert, sold out 2 nights of the Eastman Theater when it used to be 3,300 people seating. So that was one of the cool things. Now, after that, we also, when we talk about playing outside of Rochester, we also have had some extremely exciting experiences. And as I was mentioning, one thing goes to the other. You play someplace in Florida or you play someplace, then all of a sudden you get a call. So out of the Florida came the Yankees we talked about, came Stryker, which is, they make hospital beds, and Mr. Stryker's daughter was getting married. So the next thing we know, we're in Kalamazoo playing for a big major wedding there. Then from that came the Ryder Cup, which was in Bloomington Hills, Michigan, I guess at that time. So we got to play some very cool, exciting things. And some of them came from, like, Kodak, when I worked there, would have these sales meetings with 500 reps showing up, and they would want a band to play. And they knew we were all professionals and knew how to act. And then we would get flown down and play in Florida and Fort Lauderdale or Marco Island for them, and Merrill Lynch and many other companies like that. So we were playing corporately for these corporate parties, especially back then when corporations had the money for that, doing that a lot.
You have a favorite memory?
Yeah, I think the gigs that were really especially exciting would be, for me, was when we were playing the Goodwill games. And from there, after that, which was out in Seattle, I got a call from someone from NBC who had happened to be at the Goodwill games. And they said, we want to do the same kind of party that you were playing for at the end of the Goodwill games. They called it a rap party. It's a rap, right?
Right.
But it's going to be in Barcelona in 1992, this was, for the Summer Olympics.
Wow.
So the next thing we know, a few months later, we're flying over on at that time, 747 with all their sponsors, and we're over there playing in a huge bull ring that they had just rented, this bull ring. And it was at the end of the Olympics. So the Olympics ended 6 o'clock, let's say, in Rochester, New York, but it's midnight there. And so the whole bull ring fills up with cameramen. It fills up with all the athletes who were still there. It fills up with everybody who's done anything for the Olympics. And all around the bull ring, they had these barrels of sangria. And our band was set up in a national sound and lights, stage. It was big time. And so we played right through through the night for these people. And then the next day, we were there for a whole week because we played for Kodak on a cruise ship. We played for Merrill Lynch in Sitges, which is another place in Spain. But this last ending party was very, very cool. So that's a great memory,
After 54 years, not everything probably turned out okay, right?
Not everything.
Okay, tell me a story.
Well, we have, we call it crickets. We've had a few of those where you play a local club and nobody shows up. I think every band's had that, Then you start going, what are we doing wrong, But not too many bad ones like that. I mean, the band, a good example is one thing led to another, and internationally and nationally, and so. We'd be playing for Xerox in Bermuda. We played 4 Super Bowls where we got to play, these big parties they have the night before the Super Bowl, which are just amazing parties. And the NFL Commissioners Party, which was in Tampa, and that was 2001, we played for that, which was amazing. It was at this old World War II airport, and they had a theme of that kind of theme of the airport, right? It was just outstanding. And so we opened up for Hall & Oates, and we were playing,
Wow.
right there. It was outstanding.
A question. This begs another question. Do you have an agent, or you have somebody that handles this for yourself within the band, or how do you get all these gigs?
Well, that's a great, the first thing I wanted to straighten out, it isn't my band. I want everybody to know that.
Okay.
It is our band. It would be nothing without, because we're all the same, and we all have the same votes and all that. We do have someone who does our contracts and all that, and we have a crew that sets up and tears down and so forth that we have. But primarily, I'm sort of having a sales background. I would be the person who's doing the talking to these different places trying to get these gigs. So that's what I've been doing my whole life in sales and marketing. And so I apply that part of my talent to the band, and other people have their talents. They're technically great, or they know how to put song lists together and that type of thing.
So you don't have an agent that's getting a cut off the top of your...
No. I found we didn't really need that. There was a lot that were asking for it, but I thought, I can do this. We can do this. So we do it ourselves.
Well, at this point in time, a lot of it's got to be, like you were saying, it was referrals from one client to another.
Exactly. You get the calls. And when we're flying someplace, we do have this woman I was talking about, Barb. She handles all that, everything, the hotels. It's just... It's great. So we've been doing this ourselves for years.
And you were saying before the show, it was a sort of a democratic way of you working with each other.
Yes. Yeah, we all, we will be practicing, and we'll say, okay, this practice, we're going to go over these songs, get them down to be ready to play out. And we're going to, please bring in some ideas for new songs, and we're going to vote on those songs. So we vote on them, and we'll maybe, there'll be 5 songs that we're listening to, and we'll pick out 2 that we all agree with, and we'll say, learn your part, come on back next week, and then we'll start learning those songs. So it takes 3 or 4 practices sometimes to get a song down.
So there's no Yoko in there trying to make you go.
Absolutely not. That's why I think, compared to some other bands that are sort of built around one person who's the best. Our band, everybody is the best. There's nobody we're depending on. We're all equal, and we all get along because we're there for the same reason.
Well, 55 years, that's pretty darn good. It's better than most marriages, right?
There you go. I know.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions. We call it the retail section right after this break, and we're going to find out more about the Skycoasters then. Welcome back. You're listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, here with Jerry Boone, who's the founder of the Skycoasters. So, Jerry, you have some original music, right?
Yes, we do. We did a all original CD back in 1997. Got some great songs in it, and one of them, the song I think we're proudest of, is called Ra-Cha-Cha, which we did for the Rochester Sesquicentennial, which is 150 years. That was back in the 80s. And we had the tall ships here. I don't know if you remember, but there was thousands and thousands of people bussed down to Ontario Beach, and we played there for them. And we had this song which talked all about Rochester, Ra-Cha-Cha, and the big party, right? And it was played on all the major radio stations, which was amazing, on regular rotation. Very hard thing to do. And it was great because the band would be driving to work in the morning and driving home, and then you're hearing this. And you've heard stories about national acts that hear for the very first time. And I'll tell you what a thrill that was. For several weeks before this event, they were pumping it up with Ra-Cha-Cha.
And what year was that again?
In the 80s, and I think it's like mid-80s sometime.
Well, the vast majority of our listeners are gonna remember this. So why don't we play a little bit of that, like a minute, just a minute or a half?
Sounds great.
You people got it made. Main Street, it's where you wanna be. It's gonna be the best parade you'll ever see. Yeah, let's rock, Ra-Cha-Cha, Ra-Cha-Cha. Some people say it's got, yeah, let's rock, Ra-Cha-Cha, Ra-Cha-Cha.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, that is pretty good.
Thank you. It's a lot of fun making it, too.
Tell me about the shows that you have coming up.
We have we have a big show in Florida, but that's a private show. But coming around here back to Rochester, we're going to be doing some fun things. And one of the things, we've got a private show at the Genesee Valley Club, but then our next public show is going to be at Swain Ski Resort. And we're going to invite not only the skiers, but non-skiers to go down. This is going to be on January 22nd, which is a Saturday. We play from 6 to 9 right in the main lodge. It's going to be awesome. That's going to be sort of a retro costume. If they want to dress in the 80s and 90s, we'll be playing some of those songs for them. And it's going to be one of their major events of the winter, because they do have bands there, but this is the grand poobah, if you will, of the event. So we're excited about that.
And you don't have to be a skier to go there.
No, in fact, they tell me a lot of people just come down, and it's great because you sit in the lodge and it's all windows, so you're watching all the people come down the hill very close to where the lodge is, and the band's playing right in there. So it's an ideal. We played there before a few years ago, so it's an ideal spot. And then we have other great gigs. Now in the summer, we play for Brighton's 4th of July, at that same day for Fairport's 4th of July, so 2 gigs in one day. And we play a lot of the big festivals outside of town, like the Avon Corn Fest, Geneseo Summer Fest. These are big. There's 1,500, 2,000 people waiting for us to play at those, so they're a lot of fun. And along with that, weddings and other events, too, in the summer. Our biggest event is in the fall, and we do this in conjunction with Honor Flight veterans, and that's the Skycoasters Turkey Bash. And we haven't been able to do it the last couple of years. We will be doing it in 2022. That's going to be on a Friday, November 18th at the Hyatt downtown. And we usually get about 1,000 people. And we have a silent disco, which I won't bother explaining what it is, but it's a lot of fun. In one room, Skycoasters in the other. You're going to ask me.
No, I got it. A silent disco. Is this for somebody who doesn't like disco, so you play nothing? I mean, I don't understand what a silent disco is.
Actually, it's a business. They bring in, like, let's say 150, 200 earphones. And so they've got 3 DJs. And the reason they call it silent, the only place you're hearing the music is through your own earphones. So you switch from one DJ to the next, and the earphones change colors depending on which DJ you're listening to. And each one's got maybe an 80s song going, a 90s, a 2000. It's a lot of fun.
It'd be a lot of fun to see the video of that. All these people bebopping, you don't hear the music. I mean,
exactly.
That's got to be an awful lot of fun. Well, you have a wonderful brand. I mean, even the logo is fantastic. Anybody hasn't seen it, you can see it on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com. I'll have someplace on my website for you, on the blog site. But you pretty good merchandiser there. You got CDs and T-shirts, and I saw you fiddling around with a book over here. You got a pretty good looking book. So why don't we talk about that?
Well, thank you. Yes, we have for people who are fans, we love to tell them the story starting at the very beginning, going all the way through, something almost like we did here today verbally. And so we have a book with pictures. Luckily, we saved a ton of stuff from the early days when I was in high school and beyond. And we have it in this book. And so when we're going to a Super Bowl, when we're going to Barcelona, when we're going wherever, we've got pictures of us at those places, having a great time as a band off-site and then at the actual gig. So that's a great story. It's called Skycoasters, An Amazing Ride. Then we also sell our CDs, which we do. We've got like 3 or 4 CDs now. We sell them at our big summer gigs, and we have a gal who does just that. And then we also have a whole line of different Skycoaster T-shirts, which we learned a lesson, which was sort of cool. Early on, we found that we could sell twice as many T-shirts if we just announced we will sign them during the break. And boy, did that take off. So we've got nice merchandise.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that you probably have a website.
Yes, we do. And at Facebook as well. So the summer schedule of next year is already building up, and it's on our skycoasters.com website. And then they can just search for us under Facebook as Skycoasters, and they'll see us there and see pictures, perhaps of themselves at one of our gigs.
So taking us to the end of the show, I know you have a particular soft spot in your heart for a famous singer-songwriter composer, and that man is?
That is Gene Cornish from Rochester, New York, originally. And we had such an honor to meet him through some people that we got to know. And then they obviously know Gene, who lives, he doesn't live in Rochester anymore. Now, Gene is an amazing guy because he started off at a band and he went off and became one of the original 4 guys in the Rascals and has been all around the world. The bottom line is, and I'll cut right to the chase here, is we got to know him. We got to fly him in and play at our Skycoasters Turkey Bash that I talked about a couple of years ago. And then he loved the band and suggested we record some Rascal songs with him, which we did. So we're going to be actually at the end of this be playing one of the Rascal songs we did with him. But he's an amazing guitar player and a really nice person.
Mention like 3 of the songs that everybody's going to know that are Rascal songs.
Good Lovin' is one of them. People Gotta Be Free, Mustang Sally, and I'm forgetting one other one.
Mustang Sally, I love that one, being a car dealer. Well, thank you for coming in.
Certainly.
What we're going to do is we're going to take the show out with your favorite song, which is
People Gotta Be Free.
People Gotta Be Free. So thank you for calling in and we will have to have you on again, and it was a pleasure to meet you and spend some time with you. And so listen to this wonderful song from the Rascals, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Dom.
Thank you.
All